Welcome to another style study video. I am Matt, and in this video we're going to take a look at style 1B, American Lager. But before we do, let me get the disclaimer that I do not represent the BJCP in any way, shape, or form. These videos or anything I produce or this series of videos having to do with these styles are not endorsed by the BJCP. This is merely my documentation of my journey of learning these styles and preparing myself for the BJCP beer judge examination. All that easier said than done, apparently. So with that out of the way, let's take a look at style 1B. We'll start with the overall impression, then get into the vital statistics and then the particular characteristics of this style. So starting off with overall impression, we have a very pale, highly carbonated, light-bodied, well-attenuated lager with a very neutral flavor profile and low bitterness. Served very cold, it can be very refreshing and thirst-quenching to drink. All right, with the overall impression done, let's take a look at the vital statistics. Again, these are things that are not on the score sheet, but they are pieces of information that do give the beer the character that it has, particularly the color and ABV and the IBUs. Things you can kind of guess what they are, but you're not going to grade whether they match inside this or not directly. I should say directly, because of course your impression and your interpretation of the beer will go into that. So vital statistics, starting with SRM, very short range, 2 to 4. The IBUs, that range is a little longer. It ranges from 8 to 18. The original gravity for this, or starting gravity, it is 1.040 to 1.050. The final gravity goes from 1.004 to 1.010, giving us a ABV range of 4.2 to 3.5%. Now getting into the particular characteristics of this style, we'll start off with aroma, like the score sheet does, and the description is low to no malt aroma, although it can be perceived as grainy, sweet, or corn-like if present. Hop aroma may range from none to light, spicy, or floral hop presence. While a clean fermentation character is desirable, a light amount of yeast character, particularly a light apple character, is not a fault. Light DMS is also not a fault. So, moving on, we go to appearance, this is a short and sweet one. It says, very pale to medium yellow color, white, frothy head, seldom persist, very clear. That is it. So from appearance, let's go to flavor. We have a little more to work with for this one, and this reads, relatively neutral palate with a crisp and dry finish and a moderately low to low grainy corn-like flavor that might be perceived as a sweetness due to the low bitterness. Hop flavor ranges from none to moderately low levels and can have a floral, spicy, or herbal quality, although often not strong enough to distinguish. Hop bitterness at a low to medium low level. Balance may be slightly malty to slightly bitter, but is relatively close to even. High levels of carbonation may accentuate the crispness of the dry finish. Clean lager fermentation character. And then last but not least, the characteristic of mouthfeel, which reads low to medium low body, very highly carbonated with slight carbonic bite on the tongue. And that is it for the descriptors. Of course, there's comments and histories and some more information on there, but I will let you peruse that at your leisure in the BJCP guidelines. But we do want to take a look at what are the commercial examples. What can we familiarize ourselves with or use to familiarize ourselves with this style? And there's quite a few. And again, much like the predecessor to this, the predecessor in video sequence to this, the L1 Light American Lager. Plenty of examples for you to be able to find, or should be able to find, just about anywhere that sells beer. The commercial examples listed are Budweiser, Coors Original, Grain Belt Premium Lager, Miller High Life, Pabst Blue Ribbon, and Special Export. So I actually do have one of these. It was not very difficult to find, like I said. So I'm going to give myself an initial pour, and again, I have my sheet of all the characteristics you just saw on screen, and I'm going to give my initial impression, then I'm going to pause the video and do a full score sheet on this beer. And now you're probably wondering what beer I'm going to actually pour. I didn't reveal any of that. I do have a Miller High Life. And oddly enough, I do remember the last time I've had one of these. I'll try to make a long story short. We were filming a short video probably 15 years ago, and the punchline was going to be I pulled a beer out of the refrigerator and opened it and exploded in my face, and we wanted to get a cheap 4-pack of something that we could just shake up and pass around and throw on the couch and bounce around so it would explode. And lo and behold, we found some Miller High Life Pounder. This is not the one. This is not 15 years old. This is like 15 days old in my house. I'm not sure when it was brewed. But anyway, that long story short, that was a misnomer because that was longer than it should have been. But let's get to, I'll do an initial pour here and run through my highlight sheet. And then, like I said, I'll pause the video and do my full score sheet review. So we'll start with aroma. Much like the descriptors, I should say, I get no malt. I do get light hop. I do get a little bit of a kind of an herbal hop from that, which is surprising. It is clean. I do get I get a little more than light yeast, kind of like the last beer, but I get the yeast character. I don't get any DMS, but again, I think I stated this before, and I'll probably state it another 17 times in these videos, if not more. I don't necessarily smell DMS. I have been able to identify the flavor, but I don't seem to smell DMS. So, okay, I think those are the highlights. So appearance, pale straw to medium yellow, definitely there. Frothy head that dissipates. I did kind of notice there was a head forming as I poured, and it's actually, there's more left to it than I thought there'd be. I don't know if I can show that on camera, but there's like that kind of layer of bubbles that I usually would not expect from a beer that says the head dissipates completely, but it's there. It's definitely clear. Well, hard to tell with the condensation, but maybe that's a little better. It's absolutely clear. Flavor, give it a quick taste. So for the relatively neutral descriptor, I'd say I agree with that. Low bitterness, sure. Low hop flavor, maybe not. I'll have to concentrate more on that when I do the score sheet. Crisp and dry, absolutely. Clean fermentation, that is for sure. And for mouthfeel, low to medium body, definitely low bodied. And highly carbonated, that is without a doubt that last descriptor on there for sure describes this beer. So I am going to go ahead and pause this video. I'm going to set a timer for 12 minutes and get as much information as I can on this score sheet this time. And one thing I'm going to concentrate this time filling out the score sheet is one of the things I mentioned in a previous video that I always had a tough time doing, and that's mouthfeel. I'm going to see if I'm going to do a really concerted effort to fill out mouthfeel as completely as I can. Kind of a tough one to do with, but maybe that's going to be part of the challenge. If I can do it with this one, maybe the other ones will be easier. We'll see. But I'm going to set my timer. I'm going to pause the video, and I'll be back in 12 minutes. All right, we are back, and I did complete my score sheet. I think I did a pretty decent job compared to last time, especially when we got to mouthfeel, which we'll get to all this in a moment. But two things I want to point out. My timer at 12 minutes ran out, so I started a stopwatch. And if this is coming up on camera, I went over 1 minute and 42 seconds, basically 1:43 by the time you round up that 0.36 at the end. So I've got to be a little faster in my judgment. And my main thing for slowing down and wasting time was trying to think of other words apart from words I used before. And that's just going to come with more practice and expanding my vocabulary. And there's some things I'm doing to work on that as well, which I will very likely share on this show. The other thing I found out was I have not done a lot of handwriting in a long time. I'm a lefty, by the way, if you haven't figured that out. And man, did my hand really hurt after this one, and I'll have to do 6 of these when it comes to the test. So that's another thing. It's like a muscle, like any other muscle in the body. You need to work it out. So I'm trying a new pen or a pencil as well. No pens in this pencil. Not the biggest fan of this yet, but I'm going to keep trying until I find one that I like. I think the lead's actually a little too thick for my liking on this, but one that I like and will help with that writing and the comfort and everything else. But this one's not terrible. I'll probably take it to judging. Maybe leave it behind, help the other whatever club is hosting the contest, the homebrew competition, help them with their pencil collection. that was a really long explanation for that. So let's get to the score sheet, because that's probably what, if you're still hanging in here, what you're wanting to see. So let me show you how much more complete this was than the 1A. Now, if it's any good, that's the question. So let's start with the information at the top. Category 1, subcategory B. Entry number, I put in Miller High Life. Category spell out, American Lager. Special ingredients, none. Bottle inspection, appropriate size, cap, level fill, label removal, etc. I checked that off. It's appropriate. It's in a can, which I wrote. Said good hiss on open canned beer. So diving right into aroma. And another thing I'm very proud of, another reason it took so long, I don't know if you can tell, and if you hadn't seen the other video before, someone else might be able to read this. I can read it at least, which was a struggle last time. So my handwriting is getting a little better until the last section when I was running out of time. But overall, it's getting better. Let's see though, see if I can actually read it. So aroma, I wrote, no direct malt aroma detected. A faint presence of earthy hops initially recognized. Slight cherry and hay earthy hop. Well, so much for reading my own writing. Uncovered, I got it. So let me do that again. Slight cherry and hay earthy hop uncovered on swirling the sample. Light sourdough-like yeast presence, very light ester aromas with a floral forward character, and I give that an 11 out of 12. Appearance, brilliant yellow color, crystal clear, no particles or sediment found in the sample. Very thick white head, most of which faded quickly, though a very tight collar remained during the entire tasting. And that's something I kind of was talking and pouring, and I poured like a, pour at a chain restaurant. But for a testing pour, that's more likely. And that head, I wanted to do it again because I didn't get a good representation of that on the first one. So, and this, like the collar, stuck around almost that entire tasting. So I wanted to give a fair look at the appearance so everyone sees what I was working with. So again, that's appearance, 3 out of 3. It's kind of knowing how much it takes to get good head retention, a nice thick frothy head and clear beer. 3 points just does not seem like enough to reward that effort, but it is what it is. So on the flavor, clean, simple malt profile that lends well to a base hop bitterness and showcases a very enjoyable herbal and floral hop taste on the finish. A clean yet recognizable yeast character throughout the sample that didn't overwhelm the other flavor elements. This is where I started to realize I was running out of time. I actually did mouthfeel second after aroma. But flavor 19 out of 20. So mouthfeel, here we go. This is where I ran short. I actually went over the lines, and I don't think it's too much of a fluff piece. I wrote, extremely smooth, soft, billowy creaminess on the tongue and palate, highly carbonated, adding a refreshing crispness to the overall feel. Very light-bodied, bordering on thin without crossing that threshold. Slight stinging sensation from the carbonation and clean profile. Okay, so there might be a little bit of overlap there, but even with that last sentence, I still have more than before. It's still something I'm working on, but having this been my second one, being conscious of the struggle I have with it, I think it's showing some progress. So I gave a 4 out of 5 for that. Overall impression, a great example of the style, perhaps a touch lighter than expected when the sample warmed up, but could easily be boosted with a slight increase in the base fermentables. Hop character is spot on, and the yeast character added an enjoyable element to the overall beer. Well made with no process flaws detected. I would have liked that a little more there, but now I'm at the point of starting my stopwatch, so I stopped, and again, it's going to be more of a vocabulary thing I need to work on. Overall total, 46 out of 50. The stylistic this information box, I checked all the highest check marks, classic example. The stylistic accuracy, technical merit is flawless, intangible is wonderful. Circled the 45 to 50 outstanding. I had no specific notes of any of the descriptor definitions on this side, so I didn't mention them anywhere near. The only thing I had as a criticism, if you want to call it that, was as little light as it warmed up. And that is not on this descriptor, so that side did not get marked. So overall on this one, I like the improvement from the last one that I did, but I know I have a lot of work to do and a lot more progress to be made. And a lot of that is going to come with my next focus is going to be vocabulary, because that was probably the biggest struggle I had, not only to round out the descriptors in this sheet, but to also think of a word to say that I hadn't used. There's a lot of times I was kind of sitting here tapping my pencil trying to think of another word other than very or extremely or pleasant or character, and a lot of times you heard I never did really find one. So that'll just come with more practice and more studying, and that is kind of another focus along with this, is working on those descriptor vocabulary words and getting them maybe not memorized but internalized, so that they're at my disposal when I'm ready to take the test. So that is it. So I'll be back with category 1C cream ale on my next video. But before I go, I do have to say thank you for watching, and I'll be back with a new style study video very soon.